want to start? All right, thank you, everyone. We do have a quorum now for our College Career and Life Readiness Committee meeting. We also have guests with us today. We have Representative Colson from Ward 4 and Representative Best from Ward 6. We will go first to Representative Colson to talk about attendance and grading policy. So, Representative Colson, I'll turn it over to you to introduce your topic in documents that you shared. And you're muted still.
Okay, yes, thank you for the time. Thank you all for having me. I won't share the documents again, just because I don't have them in front of me. If you guys want to project them or share screen, that's fine. I hope that you all were able to review them because it gave, I believe, a more thorough overview than what I will give again. So I raised this before and you guys have been gracious to take this on. What I recall anecdotally from my experience with high schools is that we have two separate policies that when they work together, they can support, which I believe was the intent of having students to be able to make up work because they missed it for various acceptable reasons. However, now it seems that those two policies can be working together and create a product that is unintentional. So, for example, again, students can miss up to 4 days without providing a note. On the fifth day, they are required to provide a note. So they can do that, and they can do that multiple times. So let's say that it is a valid concern, a student has illness or what have you, so they bring in the notes. But then maybe another situation comes up and they bring in the notes again. So those notes have been, I'm sorry, those absences have been excused, but they've missed significant time of instruction. So then when you couple that with the grading policy that says students are able to request work from their teachers and they can turn it in basically up until the day before grades are due. They can turn in that work. It can be graded. It will not receive full credit, but they can still do well. So put those together, then it raises the concern that we've been talking about. In addition to the high school graduation requirements, we've been talking about proficiency and what students are actually learning. So my thought is if we keep on the line of proficiency and also the work that the board has already done about chronic absenteeism, let's look at students who have repeatedly turned in notes because they have been absent. But look at what they're actually learning, what their proficiency is, how their grades are, or what their grades are turning out to be. First, to look at that and gather that data. So that I think that's the best way to proceed, which is a request for data before assessing whether or not there should be a policy change and if these two policies do not work well together. So I'll stop there and I'm happy to clarify anything that I've left unclear. And while you guys are thinking about that, I'm going to close my window because I look like I'm in witness protection. I'll be right back.
So one question for me, part of this is requesting data, and then you're also requesting an analysis. And I'm wondering um, if we were able to get the data that you ask for, could we do the analysis? And if so, would that be valuable? It would ask less of them. I mean, I don't know how they'll respond to the data request itself. So that might be a lesser ask, lesser burden on them. But I wonder if you think that would not be, that they need to do the analysis also.
I'm open to however it gets done. I just think that is something that we should look into. Thank you.
Any other thoughts from the committee? And are there, Haley, do you have thoughts in terms of either uh, what is being asked or the process for next steps to make this ask?
I think it would be good for me and the rest of the policy team to have a look at the data request and just make sure it kind of aligns with how we usually draft these letters. Um, and then it can be distributed for the board to sign on to.
Thank you. And then another question, Representative Colson. You, as drafted, you have it addressed to both DCPS and OSSI. Could you um, just explain a bit about the thinking there? Like, do you feel like asking just DCPS would be insufficient, or is there a role that you see specifically for OSSI to play? Um, how were you thinking through that?
I was thinking that, well, I mean, it could just be DCPS. Yeah, it could just be DCPS. I think that we would probably get the data sooner from OSSI. I think that our data requests, just my experience in my 1 year here, is that usually my request of OSSI come back a little quicker. So just basing that on experience, but I'm open to whatever the committee or the board recommends.
Okay, yeah, and I guess we would also need to identify which which data is OSSI has versus what only DCPS has. Representative Thompson.
Yeah, I guess my question, I guess, is in line with the DCPS. Well, maybe it's different, but maybe it does help with the DCPS versus OSSI question. Is the assumption here, is the assumption here that this is a DCPS issue solely? I mean, I know that charters can set their own attendance policies, but um, is it safe for us to assume that their attendance policies are different blanketly? Do you know what I mean? Like they could be
Mhm.
different, but that doesn't mean they're more they could be more lenient, they could be stricter, they could, but
Mhm.
um
Yeah, I understand your question. And actually, you asked a similar question the first time. And so then I went and asked some of our charter school LEAs, and I got various answers
mm,
about that. So I think sometimes when you have data for one and you're able to have more data to present, then other people are more receptive into what the inquiry was. I've received some resistance and lack of information. So I think sometimes when you have a full story and a full picture and people can better assess uh, where you're trying to go, then they're more likely to participate. That's my assumption. That was the feel that I got.
full picture of DCPS or full picture
A full
of
picture of us, charter and DCPS. A full picture of, is this actually a problem that we have in the city?
mhm.
I think I was very intentional not to draft this as we're trying to penalize, but just trying to get a better understanding of how our policies are working for students and potentially how they're working against students in the long run when we talk about some of the testimony that we've heard from our recent graduates in terms of what their knowledge, what they feel like there were gaps in, and wondering if we trace that backwards, is it possibly because of proficiency, gaps in attendance? Like, how do we solve those problems?
So I'll tell you what makes me raise these questions again, and then what I would suggest. So I took a moment to go back and reread the brief and the draft letter.
Mm-hmm,
And in the issue statement, it only mentions DCPS.
mm-hmm,
But then it also, then when we go to the why this matters in current policy context,
mm-hmm,
it's current policies. And I didn't know if it should be current policies across all LEAs,
mm-hmm,
and then because of the OSSI request, because I would imagine um, the we I think two things. One is I would imagine we it would be appropriate to ask OSSI if we were talking about multiple LEAs.
mm-hmm,
And if it is, and I don't know, I never know what the different capacities are, but if it's too much of a lift, across like all LEAs, given the volume of LEAs we have, maybe we stick to the largest
mm-hmm.
LEAs, to
Right.
so we have a sense of what the universe is. Because I would have, like I said, and this is a truly, I don't know enough to know what other policies are, and I also don't know if they are yielding different results.
Mm-hmm,
And I think both questions would be beneficial for us to answer, especially if we then want to analyze and make changes, because there could be bright spots
mm-hmm,
that we would want to recommend encouraging across LEAs.
mm-hmm.
So that would be my um, thought pattern. And so I would assume if I had to recommend a set of LEAs in addition to DCPS, I would say DCPS, KIP, Friendship,
The
um,
largest.
are the three largest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
And some of the questions are specifically say secondary students.
Mm-hmm.
Would you apply that parameter for all the data requests? Like, is that where we need to focus?
I think so, yes.
Okay. So I think it would be helpful for us to ask staff to um, take a look at the specific data asks. Um, so not just the overall framing to frame it the way that we've made requests in the past. Also maybe check to see like which pieces of data are things that Aussie tracks. Like I think Aussie tracks the attendance data, but I'm not sure about like the academic performance on individual basis, like course grades and assessment grades. I don't think they would have that. So we and kind of tease out which would be Aussie, which would be LEAs. Um, and Representative Colson, do you think the looking at those three largest LEAs um, would get you the answers that you're looking for?
I think it should, but we will have to get the data first, of course, and then see where it leads us. But my thinking was, yes, we should look at all of the LEAs. Initially, I was thinking DCPS if we could not get information from the others. But what I was trying to expound upon is that when you have data from the other larger ones, then we can then go back to some of the smallers and saying, this is what we've noticed. Are you all experiencing this? What are your trends and what can we do collectively as a city to support?
Okay, I can work on the draft to reflect those three LEAs. and which data is housed at which agency, and send the draft over to you, Dr. Colson, to review before it gets circulated to the full board.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So all good, Representative Colson, with that plan of action? Okay.
All good. Yes.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks again for bringing that to us. And I'm glad that looks like we'll be able to make some progress on that.
I'm going to stay for screen time and then I will drop off.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Representative Johnson Law.
Hey guys, sorry I'm
we
behind.
we just finished up the discussion about attendance and grade policy with Dr. Colson and have a plan to move forward. We are now going to, can't find the tab with the agenda, but I believe we're up to screen time next. And so now I will ask Representative Best to talk a bit about the resolution that he has shared with us, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, thank you all for your time today. Thank you for taking an opportunity to look over the resolution. This resolution urges DC education leaders to balance the benefits of technology with stronger safeguards around screen time, student privacy, AI exposure, and developmentally appropriate instruction, especially for younger students. There are 11 key points. And I believe that I actually sent you the wrong version because as I'm looking over the resolution, there's a couple things on here that I thought I struck from it, but I'll go over it real quick. Point one, establish evidence-based screen time policies. So basically, the resolution calls for schools to create transparent screen time guidelines by grade band based on research from educators, families, and child development experts. Audit technology use in the schools, just doing a comprehensive audit of the technology and the contracts and the platforms that are being used. On the one that you have, it said the one-to-one device programs. I want to cut that. So I do not want that to be part of it in there. Meaning saying like to audit the one-to-one device programs, like I do not want that there. I think that should be there. So prioritizing developmentally appropriate instruction, for limiting harmful or non-instructional digital content. So prohibiting like the use of like certain social medias and advertising content. Reduce elementary exposure to AI and LLMs. It actually aligns with the resolution that I just did on AI, where we focus in elementary on the basic foundational skills. Strengthen student data privacy protections to make sure that we're just complying with COPA, FERPA, and district laws. Invest in digital literacy and critical thinking. Train educators on effective use in technology. Protect assistive technology and accommodation. So the resolution makes it clear that nothing shall restrict legally required technology for students with IEPs, 504 plans, and other accommodations. And then engage families, students, and communities, making sure that there's like a strong family engagement component. And then just urging action from council. So that is like the basic components of the resolution. I would love for you all to take a look at it and then mark it up and see what fits, what doesn't fit, and would love for us to be able to present something after the panel.
All right, thank you, Representative Best. So that is helpful too, to think about the timeline that you're envisioning here. I know that like I made some comments, and I know that Jen and Haley both made comments. And so that may have been on the previous version, but it sounds like it's not so different that, that wouldn't transfer.
Yeah.
So
If you send me the updated version, I can incorporate the changes into the file.
Yeah, we'll do. I can do that. I think the biggest one was the one-to-one
One-to-one.
devices. Yeah.
Okay. I'll open to comments from the other members. I can also start with a few things myself.
I can start.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Representative Henderson. Representative Best, thank you for your leadership on this. Just a couple of questions. I know I need to look at the date again. I know there's a roundtable scheduled. I think I think it's Councilmember Fruman. Um, are you trying to consider this with the legislation that people have already put before?
Well,
Like, because
no,
I know
I
they're
mean,
trying to put legislation already before the council, and so
I
is it
I
something that
think
you want us to get going so you can present it before council?
I think their legislation differs slightly from what I'm proposing.
Okay.
I met with that group and literally sat for hours,
Beyond
identifying,
screens? Is that
yeah,
it? Okay.
identifying what I felt, worked as far as like something that I felt comfortable presenting.
Mm-hmm.
And they were aligned with me on some of those things. However,
Mm-hmm.
their council bill has significantly more things than what is offered in the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
So a few thoughts that I had. I think um, I would like to adjust the framing just a little bit to reflect the existence of policies already, and so just to allow for the fact that we're calling for certain policies, but they already have policies that maybe are lacking some of these aspects, or it's an implementation problem. So either way, just for the resolution to acknowledge that there are policies already, but where we're suggesting they be changed or augmented, or if they need to be, what we heard at the last public meeting indicated some discrepancy between policy and practice. And then I also am getting the impression that after school time needs to be included in an explicit way, like after school programs, because uh, it sounds like some of the experiences that the public is reporting on are things that are happening after school. And then also uh, to make sure we're including charters and not just DCPS in the resolved clauses. Um, those are a few thoughts I had, and I put them in comments where they came up to me in the draft resolution. Um, and I like the fact that we'll be able to um, comment on this and have another iteration before uh, moving on this, so that we can have some more time for it to be uh, open to the public and so on. Representative Thompson, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm just doing my best to wrap my head around some of this. I am thinking, okay, the following things. One, I appreciate uh Brandon, you mentioning a couple places where they've already taken certain action. I am not super familiar, but will take some time to dig more into the links provided. Um, but I don't know if we all agree. I think anytime you say all, it's a pretty high hill to climb as far as what is reasonable screen time. I think that some of the extreme examples, pretty much everybody would agree. But I also think most things are not going to be on the extreme ends of things. And so I want to better understand um, at what point is uh, exposure detrimental for like brain development reasons, but also I would assume that educators are using technology differently in classrooms. And I don't want to necessarily lump everything together. Like I don't know uh, how much I always want to encourage best practices being lifted up. I do agree with the acknowledgement that there are existing policies. This kind of implies that they aren't transparent. I don't, it sounds like folks know that they exist. It's also sounded to me during the testimony that the concern was implementation in some of the existing policies, especially with regards to, um, I can't remember what it was, but it was several things that they were like, DCPS's policy says this. I don't know, and similar to the question around attendance policies, what policies are across LEAs. And so I think some of the language should probably uh, reflect both that there could be absences of policies in some cases, and where there are policies, they should be implemented with fidelity. Um, I guess those are some of my yeah, but I think the word transparent is different than awareness. Like something can be like if I gave you um so like transparent implies that something's or not transparent implies that something's hidden, right? But I think we need to refine the language. Yeah, that teachers should know the policies, principals should know the policies. Everybody should know the policies and enforce the policies. Maybe there's some training that has to happen, but there are existing policies. So, and I see you in the chat about like making sure teachers know the policies, which makes sense to me as well. I'm curious why you are removing the one-to-one device audit. I would love to hear you just speak a little bit more on that. Because I'm assuming, I am expecting, similar to Ms. Sambana's testimony, that this is not a universal experience, and that there are many schools who never realized the expectation of one-to-one. And so I do think actually that's important, not as a goal for us to remove devices, but um, again, just for us to get a clearer and more accurate picture of um, where, our policies have been implemented and also where this would not even be possible.
I think that makes sense. I guess I wasn't looking at it from that angle. I was looking at it from the angle of should we have one-to-one devices? And so I'm totally on board for it to stay, especially as I think about it in that way. As far as the usage, yeah, I was agreeing with you. I think that we need to make sure that all teachers know the policies. And I agree. I don't think that it's a transparency thing. I think a lot of times, like people don't necessarily always know what those policies are. I remember when I was teaching, I did not know every policy. I just knew what my principal told me or my instructional coach told me to do. And so I did those things. So I think we could definitely edit the language in the resolution to make sure that it shows more alignment to that. Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I
Cool.
also think some of these things might not align perfectly when we're talking about different age bands. So like the one-to-one requirement doesn't even apply to below third grade, I think, or maybe it's second grade. And a lot of the stuff that you are talking about is really about the younger students. And I like how I don't think that this resolution is overly prescriptive on the, what the guidelines would be for grade band by grade band, but is calling for the evidence-based, developmentally appropriate guidelines. One thing that I was trying to get from my questioning of the witnesses that we've had, and I've had some back and forth since then, was about like this is more about the quality of particular technology or programs like an iReady of who we would entrust to interpret the evidence and make those kinds of calls and determinations. And I don't want to like shoehorn something into a resolution that doesn't really fit. And also hearing you say that, there, I haven't looked at the legislation that's been proposed, so I don't know if this is one of those extra things that was in there that you wouldn't necessarily think fits here. But I'm also interested in maybe some clause about forming or identifying a group of people who would help inform those kinds of decisions.
I'm open to that.
All right, I'll put something in a comment to see if it can fit.
Yep. Sounds good to me.
So, like I said, there's already some commentary on the draft. Let's give some more time for all the committee members to continue to do that as Representative Best requests to mark it up. And then we'll check in on this again, at least at the working session or committee report. But I would like us to have some sort of interim kind of check-in, since we won't have a committee meeting next month unless we decide to have one.
I have a quick question that I should know the answer to, but it's not in front of me. So when are we having the panel on the screen time?
August.
August 19th.
And so is the expectation that we mark it up before the panel or after the panel, given we should be more informed after the panel? I would imagine I would be more helpful after the panel. I mean, I've given you my initial thoughts, and I gave myself some homework assignments as far as digging into the Utah example and some of the others. I probably also need to familiarize myself with the legislation. Hey, quiet. The legislation referenced, but I would imagine we would have another markup after the panel.
I think that is what Representative Best said at the outset. You could confirm.
Yep.
Yeah. I also hope that this can kind of be mutually informative for when we're selecting panelists to get those outstanding questions answered to inform that markup.
Makes
All right.
sense to me also.
Thank you, Representative Best. Anything else you want to say on that before we move on?
No, just thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Take care.
All right. Haley, I know you gave me the agenda and I had the agenda and it's on one of these tabs, but I don't know what's next.
That's okay. Before we move on from screen time, I was just going to ask if you all had any panel suggestions. I can tell you some ideas of who we are considering. we're considering someone from a state or district that has developed a comprehensive policy, such as LAUSD, someone who can speak to assistive technology and ensuring that students with disabilities have access to that, even with these restrictions. An expert on like how screen time affects child development, maybe from American Academy of Pediatrics or Common Sense Media. Aussie to speak to their policy or policies of various LEAs, and possibly an LEA or school leader, maybe from a charter. That's who we're considering. But if there's another perspective that any of you are specifically wanting to hear, let me know. I can take ideas now, or you can send them to me later.
I added in the chat that I do know some folks on the Utah State Board. If we
Okay.
get a perspective that's like what a board can do. Now, granted, it's not all one-to-one as far as SBOE responsibilities in each state, but that might be something we can consider if that's helpful, especially since Brandon referenced that Utah had legislation. I need to look at the Utah legislation to know if I like it or not, but I will offer now that I'm happy to reach out.
Okay.
Yeah, all those ideas sound good to me. Yeah.
Okay. Then the next item is site visits. First, feedback on the example site visit report and template, and then checking in on discussed visits to IDA, ATC, and Carpenters Union facility.
All right, thank you, Haley. Representative Thompson did the first site visit report, which I feel like sets a pretty high bar for what that could look like. And Haley had also worked on a template for such reports, and I think that there's some overlap, of course, um, in the information covered. And kind of my initial thought is that it would be very helpful, especially for people who were not on a visit, to have a top page along the lines of the template that Haley drafted, that hits the main points and summarizes the main takeaways, and also the comprehensive note-taking reporting in Representative Thompson's report, I think, like are both really valuable to be able to live on after a site visit. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, and also I thought the draft questions that Haley included are good ones, the right ones to be asking, particularly around standards. And I think we had talked a bit last time about just having the flexibility to adjust questions depending on the purpose of the visit and who we're going to talk to. But I think a combination of the two documents that we have uh, looks right and helpful and valuable to me. Other thoughts from the committee?
I'm not sure I have anything to add. That feels right to me as well. I think it was helpful for me to like as far as the sitting down and actually doing the exercise was helpful. And I would imagine that having the questions that Haley articulated for us beforehand and trying those out would also be helpful. Um, I would say I tried to be uh, as comprehensive as I could be as a like as a first stab to see if there was just to like see if there was any like think of everything I would want to know if I wasn't there.
Mhm.
And so that doesn't mean I have thought of everything, but I would love to know if it's like there's too much information, if if it if there are better ways to capture information. I think the videos, because I took a couple videos, there are certain things that, I mean, I know there's of course, the adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words. But I think taking videos were appropriate, not necessarily for like social media posting, especially because we want to be sensitive to people's kids, but for our learning purposes, I think it's particularly helpful both to remind us and learn about the instruction for folks who are there and for folks who weren't there to not only rely on our description. Um, and so I would like to encourage members to include things like videos for our records um, as part of the learning, because I would imagine there would be very limited opportunities for every board member to go on every visit. I think that's just a bit overwhelming for schools, and I just know people have life, and this is a we can call it part-time at best position. And so I think that was the one thing that I was like, oh, I'm glad I took a couple videos to include them.
Yeah, I think that's valuable. There, you can't locate that in notes. So definitely helpful to give a taste of what we observed. Um, yeah, I think all this sounds right to me. Any thoughts from you, Haley?
I was just gonna say that my template was more designed for the standards visits. I think you can tell that from the questions. Obviously, we could form similar questions for a different topic. And to create that really straightforward summary at the front. But I think the sample report really provides a lot of context that is really helpful as well. So this is just kind of a template for us to have going into a site visit, and the questions we want covered, not necessarily meant to be the full report.
Representative Thompson, I didn't feel like it was too much information. Like
No,
and it's
it's fair.
it's available if people want to read it, they can. And if they are only able to do a summary, then they can do the summary. Um, I'm curious, like how did you do it? Like you were going off, did you have notes from the visit or was it memory, combination of both?
It was mostly memory, but I think that's why I took a
And you had the videos.
yeah, but that's why I took the videos.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked back at the videos. I thought about like um and I personally am not good at taking notes and being present because I tend to learn by listening mostly and watching. And so I need to listen and watch. So that's for me. But when I went to sit down and write it, and if I would have done it when I was fresher, it would have been better. Like I think a couple of places where I wish I would have taken more notes was actually the when we had the conversation at the table, because I was listening, there were a few things that were referenced there that I did
Mm-hmm.
not want to misquote. Um, and I think that I don't know if it's a model, maybe that's too um, formal of a word, but that practice of having like a framing conversation, going on the visit, and then having like a debrief conversation, so we can either ask questions about what we saw or gain more context, I thought was
Mm-hmm.
particularly helpful. Um, and so I do wish I would have taken more notes during that conversation just to reference, like, especially where this is seen in other places, because I'm pretty good at describing what I saw. I think I was less able to capture just some of the expertise that was shared with us about the larger frame. And then where there were places that I needed new information, I linked two things. So, like, I was like, okay, I know we want to learn more about the external diploma program, right? Like, I didn't need to rely on my memory or anything like that. Like, I just, pulled the
Mhm.
information from a reliable source. But that's how I did it.
Yeah, thanks. And in the future, like we'll be prepared to do this and follow up, which you weren't necessarily um, thinking of at the time. And I guess it'll be important for us to designate someone to kind of take the lead on the report for each visit.
Yeah,
Um,
I think somebody taking the lead to make sure it gets done is important. I also think that uh, so, so there are two dogs at my house now. So hopefully, hey, hey, hey. And it's, people are coming home. But uh I think somebody taking the lead is important. I would also imagine that if everyone attending has this expectation, sharing notes with each other is important, or um, kind of maybe including some in once when we have the debrief conversation, like what are the things we want to learn more about? What are the things so that way
mhm.
whoever takes like the first stab um, has a place to start from.
Yeah, that's also then it's collaborative from there.
Yeah, like making it, yeah, yes, I think making it collaborative can make it stronger.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like we did a little bit of that naturally. Like we
Hmm.
knew that there was interest in the external diploma program, for example. And so we kind of had some consensus around that I could say, oh, okay, this is something I'll take time to dig more into to provide the information. Um, but I would imagine that's something we should set as an expectation that yes, one person takes the lead to make sure the thing gets done, but all members should be contributing their observations and learnings because that gives a fuller perspective.
Hmm. Yep, sounds good to me. What's next, Haley?
The next item is following up on planned visits to IDA, ATC, and the Carpenters Union facility.
So I did actually send emails this time. I have not heard back from the carpenters because that's the only visit that we can actually do over the summer. I will text Kunta and check in because I also know that there are a lot of other things that were pressing, we'll say, during this time. But when I talked to him before I sent the email, they said they were happy to host us over the summer and that they have programming Monday through Friday. And so I do know that they are happy and ready to receive us. And I think it's just a matter of getting a response back and a date. I think the ATC, I did not reach out about the ATC because I think we had the conversation of, I didn't know if the full board was invited to the visit that Robert and I went on. I made the assumption that the full board was because I saw name tags for some other board members who did not attend. And I know that, life happens, and we get so many emails and all the different things. And so I guess my question is there, and maybe I'm happy to just send an email now to the full board and say like, is there interest in visiting the ATC? Do people beyond, for folks who haven't attended, is that something we still want to schedule? Or is it just helpful to do like almost like a report out, like I did for this one,
Mm.
and share it with everyone?
Yeah, and that one doesn't fit the standards
Mm-mm.
follow-up in the same way. So, yeah, I think it's worth asking if people are interested in that
Yeah, because
opportunity.
it was more aligned with the graduation requirements work. I mean, I would imagine there are some standards that could come up here, but no, it's not. It's not a direct line. I also know that, of course, there are two ATCs, and we only went to one. So that could be an opportunity. Maybe it's not something we prioritize, maybe because we want to get into standards visits first. But you know, those are my thoughts. That's my update.
Okay.
Now, if we want to dive more into CTE and that's a charge we have, that's a different question, I think.
Yeah, I do think asking if there's interest, but otherwise prioritizing some standards related visits.
And I know that you all talked about starting the standards visits maybe September, a little bit into the school year, so presumably we could choose which one to pursue at the next meeting. Or I can pull up the list of the schools you discussed last time.
I think sharing the list with
Okay.
our fellow members as part of our report out
Okay.
to because just to raise some awareness this is happening, um, and maybe soliciting a little bit of feedback or other recommendations with promises that we're going to put to everywhere could be good for our next and sharing the template of kind of like so because what I can commit to doing is ask about the ATC visit. I will also take a stab at a similar report out for the ATC Phelps visit. Let me do that first, actually. And that way I can attach it. What I'll do is let me back up. Let me say it out loud. I will draft a report with the ATC Phelps visit. Um, and I will share it with you, Representative Henderson, so you can add anything to it. And then we can include that in our ask to see if there's interest, and also find out if other people were invited. And then if we need to add them to our list, we can do so.
Sounds good.
Okay. The next thing is meeting dates for August and September. So we do not have any further meetings noticed after this. Typically, committees do not meet in July. The August visit, your standing date, the fourth Wednesday of the month. I am out of town that whole week, so it'd be ideal if you all are willing to meet on a slightly different day, so that I can still support you, and it doesn't have to get added to another staff member's plate. So, some suggested dates. August 31st is a Monday. We could also, September 2nd, that Wednesday is the working session, so we could also meet September 1st. The other proposed dates are before the public meeting, and I don't know if that will work as well if we're hoping to incorporate what you learn from that panel. So would August 31st or September 1st work for you all?
Yeah, I could do the 31st, and I see Representative Thompson is good with that.
Yeah, I like the 31st. I feel like when we do it the same, like too close to the working session, it just creates its own set of things. So
Okay. And Representative Johnson Law, does August 31st work for you?
Hey guys, sure.
Okay. I will set that one up, 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
And for September, your standing date of the fourth Wednesday, the 23rd. Let me double check. Yeah, the public meeting is the 16th. That just seems really early in the month. Yeah, the 23rd is open and available if you want to stick with that.
That works for me.
That works.
Okay. Okay, I will get those noticed and set up on the calendar. And your next thing is new business and then adjournment.
Is there any new business for the committee? I see no new business, so we can adjourn.